checkpoints that they now have, including bulletproof ones. That's in the news today because they announced it. It's an armed camp where the criminals take over and have us all at gunpoint. That's what a tyranny is.
It really became apparent when I spent a lot of time outside of the United States, as well as living and growing up here. When I came back a couple months ago, just before I came to see you in Austin, you start turning on the TV, and I didn't realize the overwhelming onslaught. It's like a full court press when you turn on the television, and to hear this president talking on a daily basis, I really felt kind of oppressed in the fact that I'm looking around and saying, why isn't anybody upset about this? Why are people not
exactly. I was watching The Expendables this morning on the treadmill. You know, a cheesy action adventure film that Stallone produced, because I found that's the best thing to watch when I'm jogging. And normally I wouldn't watch mindless stuff like that, but it's actually good when I'm jogging, jog harder, longer, faster, kind of get into it. But I was watching a supposed third world country with oppression, and it was America. It was everything they're starting here, and they were describing a horrible police state in Latin America, and that's where I live. And all we have left is the old free speech and the Second Amendment, and now they say they're coming after that, and Obama, through MSNBC, is openly trying to cause a race war, editing tapes of the Zimmerman guy to make it sound like he's racist. I mean, it's even though we know it, Patrick, it's still amazing that these are real criminals. I mean, we have real criminals in charge now.
I mean, I stood there watching the press conference on the White House lawn 2 days ago with President Obama, President Calderon of Mexico, and Stephen Harper from Canada. And I listened to President Calderon lecture the American people on the fact that it's because of our guns that are going over the border that are killing people on the border towns along Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona, somehow ignoring the whole fact that 30,000 guns were shipped down in Operation Fast and Furious, which was directed by the Department of Justice.
Which is
supposed to be protecting the American people. And these are causing the deaths, not gun manufacturers and gun dealers who are doing legitimate business in America, but the flip of it, right in your face, with Obama standing next to him, and probably Eric Holder in the back behind the door, smiling. I can't conceive the hypocrisy. The level of it is unbelievable.
Well, no, exactly. And we said this would happen. When Judicial Watch sued and got the SPP documents, they just got new documents where it confirms what police were already saying. They just release the illegals and give them a waiver form. Again, the government selectively enforces, but getting back to this, they said in the SPP documents that from 2006, Judicial Watch sued and got in 2007 that are so important. It said we're going to use border security crises to merge the three countries. We're going to use the flu and economic collapse. And they go on to say we've got to keep this secret from the public. And it's corporate chiefs there giving all the leaders of the countries orders. Here's the corporate government. Thousands of pages I scanned over. I put the most powerful ones in my film Endgame, Blueprint for Global Enslavement. And then here they are. 3 years ago, before Fast and Furious even broke, I said they're shipping guns to Mexico under programs, some of it had already leaked, to blame the Second Amendment later. And then even when they get caught doing it, they still go ahead with it. And here's the head of a narco-terrorist state lecturing the American people on our Second Amendment right when he's disarmed his poor people. I mean, this is incredible what we've been brought to.
And the other thing is, people should not be naive. Okay, when you have a military industrial complex in this country that's grown to such proportions, because we're deploying troops all over the world in the thousands daily. Okay, and throughout history, whenever a military or police state grows to a certain size, it itself within the military will become very corrupt. I used to have a friend from Uganda who was part of the Ugandan army under Idi Amin. He was a dishwasher in London, worked in a restaurant when I first moved there to study. And he told me stories of that he would, for cash, him and his buddies in his unit would take arms out of the stockade, which was the government military stockade, and they would sell arms to the Lord's Resistance Army. for cash. Okay, the same thing in the Soviet Union. Half of the global black market after 1991 that flooded Africa and flooded Asia was ex-Soviet stockpiles because their military-industrial complex was just too big and too out of control. They
always eat their own country. That's what happened in Rome. The military ate its own country, and they couldn't keep the barbarians out. And that's the thing. The criminality's reached such proportions that it's going to bring the whole system down because no one can stop anybody. It's just mad stealing everywhere.
Absolutely unbelievable.
Patrick Henningsen, I want to come back and play a clip of Geraldo Rivera going, well, they do it to fight Al-Qaeda. They grow the opium. And the troops are like, yeah, we don't like it, but it's what we got to do. Again, they have to hide it in plain view now. Hey, if you're patriotic, grow some schmack. 2 minutes left with Patrick Henningsen, and Lord Monta's joining us with hardcore breaking news. It was in a 21. It's happening right here in Austin, making headlines. But if you just type in U.S. troops growing opium in Afghanistan, you'll get BBC, ABC, AP, Reuters video, CBS, NBC, Fox, Sky News, and it's all the same script. Because the troops were 3 years ago starting to mutiny over the fact that they were growing opium, loading it on trucks, flying it out. And this all started coming out. They had to kill Pat Tillman over it, and that kind of got embarrassing. He was writing letters home, getting ready to go public. So instead they said, hey, hide it in plain view. Well, we hate it, but Al-Qaeda will make the money if we don't grow it. And so here is Geraldo Rivera. This all came out in a 1 month period because they've gotten slicker. Instead of just denying it, they're like, yeah, we grow the opium. And we're going to put you in a private prison owned by our banks that bring it in if we catch you using it. You see how they get money on both ends. Good businessmen. Of course, we're naive idiots, so that's why we live like this. Let's go to a part of this clip and get Patrick Henningsen's take on it. Here it is.
Geraldo, tell us what you've seen during your days there in Afghanistan.
Hi, Allison, Dave, and Clayton. Yes, in some ways, the Marines' brilliantly executed invasion of Marja, this town in the middle of Helmand province, was the easy part. The hard part now is governing this province, a province, as you suggest, that has become addicted to opium in many, many ways. That is the principal problem.
Oh, see, it's part of the hard decision they've got to govern. It's tough, but we do what we have to win. Let's go back to the clip. Here it is.
That is being grown here. The Taliban lend the farmers the money. They are indebted to the Taliban. They have to grow the opium. Now the Marines, in their success, are in a sense a victim of their success because now the population is, they have these opium fields and we are tolerating it. We are tolerating the cultivation of the
10% of world supply pre-2001, now 92% or higher. Government's own numbers. They're not tolerating it. The Taliban wasn't letting them grow it. Oh, but the Taliban's doing it. That was one group of real Taliban, who, by the way, knew bin Laden was the CIA, that came out, who weren't letting it happen. I'm not saying they were good guys, but they were not allowing the cultivation of it. And so there was an invasion. Let's go back to the clip.
Opium, because we know that if we were to destroy it now, the population would turn against the Marines and it would be a real security risk. Let me introduce Lieutenant Colonel Brian Christmas. He's the commanding officer of the 3rd Battalion, 6th Marines. Really a wonderful group of Marines here. I know that you care deeply about this contradiction, the fact that here you have one of the best fighting forces in the world ever mounted, and in a sense you're watching as this opium.
You're there for the opium.
It grinds at your gut. How do you deal with it? What are you doing about it?
Well, frankly, this is a part of their culture. So while it might grind in my gut, it's what they do. We provide them security. We're providing them resources. And we're providing them alternatives. And the alternatives are different crops to grow. They're getting the seed and the fertilizer to do it. They can rotate any of their crops that they want. If they want to get rid of their wheat and grow cotton for the winter.
We provide them other crops. That's why the crop's up almost tenfold. But again, when you use it, you go to a jail. This is how they've made slavery legal. 7.1 million people. I said 6 million yesterday. I looked it up. It's 7.1 mil now in prison, double what China has. And on record, of the 3 or 4 big companies, they're subsidiaries of banks that launder drug money. So let me explain how this works. They make it illegal to drive the price up. So your daughters sell themselves, people rob you for the money, so the banks can get bigger profits. Then they get the zombies that use it, throw them in the jails, the prisons, working to build widgets to drive down our wages on the outside. You think China takes your jobs? How about 7.1 mil? Closing comments on this, Patrick Henningsen.
Yeah, the important thing is if Americans can take anything from this information and just switch a little light on in their head, and frankly, I don't know how Geraldo Rivera earns for $5 million a year or $10 million a year to have absolutely zero brain activity going on. But when the Taliban got their award from the United Nations in 2000 for they did a fatwa on opium. Okay, and this idea of the Taliban uses the opium to fund their insurgency was just a little bit of propaganda that's been seeded like a meme into the minds of the West by people like Tony Blair and so forth. And the fact, just look at the 700 tons before 2001 exported, and now 8,000 tons. By the latest calculation, which was done in 2009, you're talking about, 1,000% increase or something like this, and that's just what we have on record. Okay, there is a correlation.
But the Marines have got to grow it for America and take the cancer virus shots because they support America, and if you support America, you grow the opium. Patrick Henningsen of Infowars.com. Great job, Lord Christopher Monckton. Coming up straight ahead. Great job, my friend. We'll get more on your reports on the government hit teams in the next few days. Well, YouTube is now banning videos critical of global warming alarmism. And some people would say, well, they're their own private website, and so, that's their right. Well, if they were a video website about fishing or hunting or skateboarding, and they said our terms of use are you can post videos about hunting or skateboarding, that would be an issue. But they call it YouTube, something Google bought 6 years ago that was about the communities and free speech and about not being evil. And YouTube, run by Google with all its Obama administration connections to the intelligence community, over the weekend dimmed the screens to black for Earth Hour. At first it was voluntary and you had a switch, and then later it just froze to black for a while where you didn't have the choice. That's how it always works. That's how they always do it. And we have about 8 different channels that are our official channels. All together, I've done an analysis. It's about 600+ million views in the last 3 years on there. We've got XM channel 166. We've got over 100 AM and FM affiliates. We're #1 in the audio streams at Shoutcast, not just for talk radio, but period. We've just been on Roku for about 5-6 months. We're now #1 in news there. Wherever we're able to compete, we win, 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 win. Because in the market of ideas, the truth and liberty and freedom trumps a bunch of sniveling control freaks who sit up on their mountain and always tell us what reality is and lecture us. Now, I occasionally do some satire, and I just did a joking piece as I introduced Mark Moreno of Climate Depot, pointing out that she says that we're all mentally ill, this professor, that if we believe in natural changes in the earth and that it's not man-made. She said that we need to be treated. And I've gone and found some of her other writings saying, don't wait for public consensus on climate change, just do it. Praising John P. Holdren, who, of course, calls for sterilants in the water. I mean, they